Imagine you are thousands of kilometers away from land, surrounded by nothing but ocean. You need to communicate something important. Maybe another vessel is approaching. Maybe the weather has suddenly changed, or maybe there is a problem on board. You pick up the radio and you speak. But at sea, communication has to be more than just speaking. It has to be clear, precise, and easy to understand. Because when you are surrounded by ocean, there may be very little room for confusion. And that is why the maritime world has developed its own language, its own expressions, and even its own way of describing something as simple as left and right. Hello and welcome to MaritimeX Deep Dive, and thank you for joining us. If this is your first time here, welcome. This is where we take the world of ships, ports, people, technology, and ocean operations and break it down in a simple way so you can understand what is happening, even if you have never worked at sea. And if you have already listened to our episode on the NATO phonetic alphabet, you can find that episode linked with this one. We covered Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and the rest of the alphabet there. So today we are going a little further. Let's talk about some of the everyday language used at sea, especially port, starboard, and three very important radio calls: Mayday, Pan, and Securité. Let's get into it. Let's start with something that sounds very simple: port and starboard. If you are new to maritime terminology, you might hear someone say, move to port, or traffic is on the starboard side. And you may be wondering, which side are they talking about? Here is the easiest way to remember it. Port is the left side of the vessel, starboard is the right side of the vessel, and this does not change just because you move around the ship. The terms are fixed to the vessel itself. Think of the ship as having its own permanent left and right. Port is always the vessel's port side. Starboard is always the vessel's starboard side. So if you're standing on the bridge, facing forward, port is on your left and starboard is on your right. If you walk to another part of the ship, the names do not suddenly switch. Port remains port. Starboard remains starboard. That fixed reference is extremely useful because everyone on board can understand exactly which side is being discussed. And there is an easy little memory trick. Port has 4 letters. Left also has 4 letters. So port, left, starboard, right. Simple. And there are a few more words that make this language even easier to understand. The bow is the front of the vessel. The stern is the back. So if someone says something is at the bow, they mean it is toward the front. If they say something is at the stern, they mean it is toward the back. You may also hear forward, meaning toward the front, and aft, meaning toward the back. Once you understand those few words, a lot of maritime conversations suddenly become easier to follow. But there is another side to maritime communication, and this one is especially important: radio. Ships use marine VHF radio for many types of communication, including navigation, safety, and emergencies. And when something serious happens, the words used on the radio matter. There are 3 expressions you should know: Mayday, Pan, and Securité. They sound familiar, but they do not mean the same thing. Let's take them one at a time. First, Mayday. Mayday is a distress call. It means there is serious and imminent danger and immediate assistance is required. Imagine a vessel has suffered a major fire or is sinking and people on board are in danger. The radio call might begin, Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Then the vessel would provide important information, such as its identity, position, the nature of the emergency, and the assistance required. For example, you might hear something like Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. This is motor vessel Ocean Star. Our position is 5 nautical miles east of Port Example. We have a major fire on board and require immediate assistance. That is a distress call. It tells everyone listening, this is an emergency, people may be in danger, and help is needed immediately. The International Maritime Organization classifies Mayday as the signal used to announce a distress message. Then we have Pan. Pan is different. It is used when there is an urgent situation, but it is not the same as a distress situation involving grave and imminent danger to life. For example, a vessel may have lost propulsion, have a serious mechanical problem, or experience another situation that requires urgent assistance. A radio call might sound like Pan, all stations, this is motor vessel Ocean Star. We have lost propulsion and are drifting approximately 3 nautical miles offshore. We require assistance. Notice the difference. The vessel has a serious problem, but it is not necessarily a situation where people are in immediate danger. That is where pan-pan comes in. The IMO identifies pan-pan as the signal used to announce an urgency message. And then there is Securité, pronounced Securité. This one is used for safety information. So imagine a vessel discovers a navigation hazard, or there is important information that other vessels in the area need to know. The message might begin, Securité, Securité, Securité. All stations, all stations. This is motor vessel Ocean Star. Unlit floating object reported approximately 2 nautical miles north of the harbour entrance. Vessels are advised to navigate with caution. That is not a mayday. It is not a pan-pan. The vessel is sharing important safety information so other people can take care. The IMO identifies a Securité as the signal used to announce a safety message. 3 words, 3 different situations. Mayday, distress, pan-pan, urgency, Securité, safety, and that distinction is important. There is something else worth remembering. Maritime communication is not just about knowing these 3 words. The International Maritime Organization has developed standard marine communication phrases, a standardized safety language designed to reduce misunderstandings between people communicating at sea. The idea is simple. When communication matters, clear and standardized language helps people understand one another, even when they come from different countries and may speak different first languages. And that brings us back to something we started with. Communication at sea has to be clear, because imagine hearing a message through wind, engine noise, waves, and radio interference. There is already enough uncertainty. The last thing you want is uncertainty of what someone means. That is why maritime communication has developed such specific words. Port, starboard, bow, stern, mayday, pan-pan, Securité. They may sound unusual to someone hearing them for the first time, but each one has a purpose. And there is something fascinating about all of this. A ship can be carrying thousands of containers, travelling thousands of kilometres with people from different countries on board, and still operate using a common communication system. One language, one set of familiar terms, one clear message at a time. So the next time you hear someone say, traffic on the starboard side, you know exactly what they mean, the vessel's right side. If you hear Mayday, you know it is a distress situation. If you hear pan-pan, you know there is an urgent situation. And if you hear Securité, you know important safety information is being broadcast. It is almost like learning a small vocabulary that unlocks an entirely different world. And that is what makes maritime language so interesting. You do not need to be a sailor to understand it. You just need to know what the words mean. This has been MaritimeX Deep Dive, where we make the maritime world easier to understand, one deep dive at a time. If you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to MaritimeX, and if you missed our episode on the NATO phonetic alphabet, check the link with this episode and continue the conversation there, because there is still a whole world beyond the horizon waiting to be understood. Until next time, keep exploring, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.